All right, welcome everyone. I see some new faces to Olive Online. Welcome. We meet every Monday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So take advantage of these great classes that are happening. We just wrapped up a session with um, Neelam from Sahas, and she did some great meditation, relaxing, and tapping techniques and yoga type exercises. Everyone's feeling very rejuvenated and relaxed. And now we will be talking about real estate, which is a hot topic for our seniors. And we will be recording today's session and posting it on our YouTube later. I do request everyone to save your questions towards the end. You can always put them in the chat box during the session. We will spend the last 10-15 minutes with a Q&A with our speaker. I would be happy to introduce our speaker, Anum Khan. Anum is a full-time real estate agent working across Los Angeles, Orange County, and the Inland Empire. Prior to being a realtor, she earned her MBA from Columbia Business School and worked as a consultant for Ernst & Young, advising Fortune 500 companies on multi-million-dollar transactions. She provides the same collaborative, strategic, and financial acumen of each real estate client she works with. Additionally, living all throughout Southern California, she has given her an innate sense of what it makes each neighborhood unique. Whether you're a first-time homebuyer or a seasoned investor, she looks forward to connecting with you. Thank you, Anam, for being with us today. And we're so excited for this session to learn more.
Awesome. Thank you for inviting me, Zainab, and nice to see some familiar faces as well. So I'll just get started. I will pull up my slides that I have. So let me just pull those up. Um, okay, so here we go. And okay, can you all see the slide? Okay, great. So, yeah, so Zainab invited me to speak. So we were kind of talking about, what is kind of top of mind for Oliver's? What have you all been kind of asking about when it comes to real estate? So I thought I'd talk about your home, your future, and really real estate planning for seniors. So these are the topics that I'm going to be speaking on today. And like Zainab said, if you have any questions, feel free to save them for the end of the chat. And I'd be happy to talk about some specific scenarios or anything else that you're kind of wondering about. But for today, the main topics I wanted to discuss were first this concept of aging in place. So I know this is really important to Olive's philosophy. What can we do to help adapt your living spaces? With ADUs or accessory dwelling units, if that's something that you're looking to build or have questions about, I wanted to talk a little bit about those. And then also maybe you have rooms in your home that you're considering renting out. So what might that look like? Um, the next topic will be multi-generational living. So this is definitely a trend that's on the rise. I see more and more people looking for homes that are already well suited for having multiple generations living there. Or if people want to adapt their existing space, what might that look like? There's also senior living communities in Southern California. So that's another option that some people are opting for. And I know one of Olive's goals eventually is to also build their own facility. So, what might that sort of look like? And then, kind of more of the boring stuff, but also very important is things like taxes and trust and estate planning. So, making sure all of your documentation is in order and that you have planned for, what you want to happen with your property and assets afterwards as well. So also if you have any questions of, I need a contractor or I need a lawyer, I also have all of those trusted contacts available. So if you have any needs, specific needs, I'm also happy to connect you with resources for those as well. Um, So, a little bit about me. So, this is a map of Southern California. These areas in red are all places that I've lived in. So, I grew up in Cerritos, went to UCLA, and then have lived in LA and also the Inland Empire. So, very familiar with different parts, different areas and neighborhoods in the region. Like Zainab mentioned, I went to UCLA and I got my MBA from Columbia. And prior to being a full-time real estate agent, I was a consultant at Ernst& Young. And I started my real estate career at Keller Williams, and now I'm part of Real Brokerage, which is the fastest growing brokerage in the country right now. So also for me, this topic is very personally important because I was very privileged and lucky to grow up with all four of my grandparents around. So on the left side is my mom's parents. They mostly lived in India, so I have a lot of great memories of going and visiting them and seeing, them really thriving, staying in their home that they had built and, being in a community that they love being in. And they would also come and visit us from time to time. And then in the middle is my dad's parents. So they actually both lived with us before they passed. They lived in Riverside with us. So I also kind of have seen the needs of seniors who are living maybe with family members or what's the best way to adapt homes so that the elderly are comfortable where they're at and that the situation is can work for them as well. And then on the upper right is me, my mom, my grandmother, and then my great grandmother in the middle. So I was also lucky enough to, meet her and have memories of her as well. So a lot of what I'm sharing also is things that I've just personally seen with grandparents as well, since I've been able to live with them and have a lot of experience with them as well. Um, and then here's my contact information. Like I said, if you have any questions or anything, and I'll share this again at the end of the presentation, but feel free to call or email me if you have any, needs, like I mentioned. Um, okay, and then. So getting into the kind of first topic. So what are common sort of conversations that people are having? So just last week, someone reached out to me. She is in her late 50s, husband's in his early 60s, and they're thinking about retirement planning. They bought this large home in Yorba Linda 5, 6 years ago. And they just kind of realize, we're not using the pool. The maintenance is becoming a lot. But what do we do with this house? And how do we also make sure if we sell this that we're able to buy a home that can work for us for our future needs? So that's one of the kind of conversations that I'm having with people nowadays. What I'm also seeing is a lot of people want help with their young children. So they're either moving closer to where their parents are so the grandparents can be nearby, or they're looking to buy a home where it can work for both, for all three generations as well. So that's definitely a trend that's on the rise currently also. People are definitely looking to move closer to family. And then some of the common questions I hear are how can I afford to move? And then also how can I stay in my home? So when it comes to how can I afford to move, it's important to look at, I help people with what is the value of their home, what would moving look like, what would your new taxes look like if you were to move? And then also, what if you decide to stay in your home, what can we do to adapt the space so that you're able to stay there long term? Um, okay, so going to aging in place. So I'm sure we're all familiar with this concept here, but the idea really is living safely and comfortably in your own home. So, as I mentioned with my mom's parents, I saw that they really thrived with aging in place when they lived in India. So, some of the things we want to think about is how can you modify your home? As I mentioned, maybe you want to rent out some of the spaces in your home so you're staying in your property, but you also have extra income coming in, and maybe you have someone available that can help with certain tasks and items. What's really nice now is we have so much access to technology that can really be an asset if you choose to stay in your property. So that can be things like meal delivery services, having a button or something that you can use if you need someone late at night. And also having a community of people around you is very important as well. And then also just personal planning for needs that you might have, maybe if you're not driving, having a driver, things like that around. And then also when it comes to home maintenance, making sure that we're taking care of things like replacing the roof, updating the electrical panel, making sure your plumbing and everything is up to date as well. Even in my current home, we're not planning to sell this anytime soon, but I had a home inspector come and do an inspection just to make sure there was no underlying things that might come up. So based off of that, we did a few repairs to the home to make sure that it's in, good working order and there's no big expenses that might come up later on. So that's something else that I would recommend to people, especially if you've been in your home a while. So these are some examples of modifying the home. So if we look on the left side, we have a wheelchair accessible cooktop. So this makes it easy for the person to come and cook their own meals. Having raised outlets is really important so people aren't having to bend down to, plug in appliances or things like that. Wider doorways is a very common need I've seen, especially in older homes. The doorways just aren't as wide as we see in newer construction homes. So I have contractors that can come and give you an estimate and explain, what would it cost to just kind of widen the doorway so it creates easier access in and out of the property. Having different counter heights so you're able to easily reach whatever you need. And then also having things like a raised dishwasher and having basically having things be easily accessible. So these are all things that we want to keep an eye out for if you're looking to adapt your home. I've also seen some properties that people have fully adapted the home and maybe the senior doesn't want to live there anymore. So they're selling the home and it's already fully adapted. So there are some homes like that that also come on the market that could be a good option as well. And then again, these are some other examples. So with the bathroom, making sure the toilet, the shower area is easily accessible. These chairs are really popular now that can go up and down stairs. For my grandfather, actually, we just got this installed so that he's able to go up and down. And it's pretty nice because now, even if a home is multi-story, it can still work if there's multiple generations living there. Upper right, we see this is a shower chair that we actually got for my other grandfather who was not able to walk. So making it accessible to get in and out of a tub. And then just making sure there's support for like standing up and things like that to prevent any falls. Okay, so moving on to ADUs, I know this is something I think some of you all have been wondering about. So ADUs are accessory dwelling units. So these are secondary homes that are built on a primary residence. So typically what I'll see in Southern California is with a home with a about 5,000 or more square foot lot, there's enough space in the backyard to build a property like this that you see in the picture. And these are typically anywhere from like a studio apartment to a 1 or 2 bedroom home. With these, people either build them so that they can have multi-generational living on the same home, or people build them to rent out. So I've also seen where these are being rented as their own home. And the nice thing about ADUs is they're truly their own separate property. So they have their own access in and out. And depending on the utilities, it may or may not be on the same system as your own, as the main house as well. So these are definitely becoming more popular, and there are builders that specialize in building these types of homes if this is something that you're interested in. California also has a up to $40,000 grant for eligible homeowners to build an ADU. So if that's something that you're interested in, I can also speak with you about that and see if that's something that you might qualify for as well. And yeah, I just wanted to also remind everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I know this is probably a lot of new information coming at you. So someone's asking, can you convert your garage into an ADU? So that's a very good question. I've definitely seen garages converted. Um, there's kind of two ways to do it. You can either get a permit from the city, or I have seen people do it unpermitted. With the permit, you have to have a contractor come, they make a blueprint, They, make sure all the plans are approved, up to code, up to standard. So that is one way to do it. And then the city will know that, hey, this ADU is permitted. So if they come and check on anything, then they know that it's been done up to standard. And part of the reason for that is also safety reasons. I have seen a lot of ADUs in garages that are not permitted, so people just kind of do it on their own. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that route, but that is another option that I've seen. With the garage conversions, you also need to, of course, make sure there's access to, water, electricity, ventilation, things like that. But I've definitely have seen garages that have been converted to ADUs. The eligibility criteria for the grant, that's a good question. I'd have to look into the specific details, but there are some income requirements. Like obviously you can't be using it if you're like an investor. And it may also depend on what location you're choosing to do it in. So which part of Southern California. The average cost for a two-bedroom ADU, so if you're building it, I would say minimum 150,000. Potentially more, just depending on how big you want it and also how many bathrooms. But I would say 150 minimum is like a good number to work with. Any other questions on ADUs? Otherwise, I'll move on to the next slide. Okay, all right, moving on. So another topic was renting out vacant rooms. So I know some people have homes, you've bought maybe 20, 30 years ago, raised your family in, maybe they've moved out. Now you have a bunch of vacant rooms. So what can you do with those rooms? So one of the options is actually renting them out. If that's something that you're thinking about doing, the first thing I would do before you go and start advertising it is really think about what are your goals. So, are you just looking for, additional rent? Would you like someone to come that can maybe help with certain tasks around the home? Are you looking for a family, young kids, no young kids? These are kind of things that I would first think about just to make sure whoever does end up living with you is a good fit for you and also for them. In terms of ways to find these renters, so there's a couple of options. The first is posting it online on common sites, probably most of us have seen, like Zillow or Redfin. There are also specific home sharing programs for seniors. So there are companies like Silver Nest and Nesterly that specialize in connecting seniors with people that are looking to rent out rooms, and they make sure that it's a mutually beneficial fit for both. And then there is also, of course, word of mouth. So letting people in your community know so that way you can find someone that maybe you're already connected to as well. In terms of important considerations, so definitely we want to make sure that the renter is screened. You want to do a full background check on them, run their credit, look at their employment history, all of that kind of stuff. These are things that I've done when I've helped other clients find renters for their homes. So you definitely want to make sure you're doing all the proper screening, and you also want to make sure you have a contract in place. So California has its own, renter agreement contracts. So I've helped clients with that, making sure everything is clearly outlined so that there is, everyone's just on the same page before someone moves into your home. But this is something that you may want to consider, especially I think it's a great option if you are looking to stay in your home, and it can really be mutually beneficial to both people. Um, so with multi-generational living, this is another concept. Actually, I'll answer the question in the chat first. Who can help us creating contracts and background for renting a room out? So this is something that I've done for my clients. There are specific forms through the California Association of Realtors. So those are the forms that I use, and these are all, legally compliant. They're checked by lawyers. They're updated regularly based off of changes in the law. And then in terms of background checks, there is a website I use called Rent Spree. So if I'm working with a client to rent out a home, I always have all the renters apply through Rent Spree. And on there, there's an option for the renter to pay for the background check. So Rent Spree handles the whole background check, and they will also verify the person's credit and all of that as well. But yeah, those are both definitely things that you want to do if you are looking to rent out a room in your home, or even if you have another property that you want to rent out as well. Um, okay, so with multi-generational living, so this is an interesting concept that is more on the rise now, and these are called next generation suites. So I actually sold a client a new construction home in Menifee, so near like Temecula area. And the idea here is that there is a main home, and attached to it is its own private suite that is its own sort of standalone apartment. So with the home my client bought, she has her main house, and then there's a door connecting the main house to this next generation suite, and it has everything in it. So you'll see in the next picture, it has its own kitchen, laundry, bathroom. It has its own private entrance. So she bought it because she knew later on down the road her parents would be moving in with her. So she thought, this is the best way for both of them to live together, but also for the parents to still be independent and have their own, private living area. Some people also choose to buy homes with these suites because they can rent this out for additional income as well. So this is definitely more on the rise. And from talking to builders, I know these are some of the most popular homes that are being sold now because of the added value that comes with this suite being added onto the home. And then with this, you also don't have to worry about the cost of like building an ADU. It's already all permitted and done up to code and everything as well. And then senior living communities. So one of the main ones, probably some of us are familiar with, are in Laguna Woods. But there are different areas of communities that are focused on the 55 and better population. Laguna Woods is located near Laguna Beach, Mission Viejo, near that area. And the whole idea is that it's a community of seniors that all live together, but you're living independently in your own homes. And what's really nice is there's a lot of different access to programming and community events to really help seniors with, aging in place and also having a community of people around them. So with Laguna Woods, they have everything from golf courses to fitness classes, different hobby clubs. So you could do like arts and crafts or things like that, learn a new skill. They even have their own movie theater. And they have a partnership where you can do continuing education. So if you're looking to continue, earning college credits, and they also have their own library as well. So this is another concept I've seen. Just this past weekend, I was in Rancho Mission Viejo, and they're also building more 55 and better communities in that area as well. So those homes, like I mentioned, are independent homes that you live in with the added amenities that are really helpful for 55 and over population. Okay, so someone asked, can we rent out the ADU? Yes, yes. That's one of the main reasons people build ADUs or buy homes with ADUs. Either they want to have family living on the property with them, or they want to rent it out. So I have seen listings online specifically for ADUs. So you would rent it out as its own home and have your own contract with whoever is moving into that property. So yes, you can definitely rent those out. Yes, there are definitely affordable housing communities for seniors as well. Each one has its own sort of requirements. Sometimes there's like income restrictions, like age restrictions. But there are affordable housing specifically for seniors in different parts of Southern California. So you're saying I have heard that ADUs are not allowed to be rented in Diamond Bar. So what I would look into first is if the ADU was permitted when it was built. So what that means is that before the home was built, the builder went and got permission from the city. They got all of the building plans approved by the city. So if the ADU is permitted, generally you can rent those out. Now, of course, I'd have to check into the specifics of the home and the area. But when you heard that the ADUs can't be rented out, that might be in a case where the ADU wasn't permitted when it was built. So that's something to look into. The other thing that people are doing now more is there was a law passed recently where you can actually divide your lot into two lots with two different addresses. So what some people have done is they have their main house on one part of the lot, and then they've built an ADU that has its own separate address and separate lot right behind that main house. So in that case, you could rent out that ADU because it's its own separate property with its own address as well. So that is something that I've been seeing some people do as well. Can I share the details on how to apply here in Laguna? Yes, so I'll put that in the chat later on. I can put a link to the website, and on there you can see, what are the requirements, more details about the community, and all of that as well. Also, if you just Google Laguna Woods senior living, it'll come up there as well. Okay, and then this is the last slide I have here. So, talking about, estate and trust planning. So, the outside of real estate, making sure all of your documentation, all of your like the way that you want your property inherited, making sure all of that is done properly is very, very important. So first thing is you want to make sure your home is in a trust. And what's important to note is that a trust is not the same thing as a will. So people think, oh, I've already made a will. It clearly states what's going to happen to my property after I pass, but that is not the same thing as a trust. So what will happen is if your home is not in a trust, the home will go through the probate process. So I see this a lot. Someone who owns a property passes, the home was not in a trust. So what happens then is the home has to go through the court process, and that costs a lot of legal fees. It takes a lot of time. And even if you have a will that states how you want the home to be passed down, if the home was not put in a trust legally, it has to go through the probate process. So it's very important to put your home in a trust, and you can also put other assets in there, like businesses that you have, bank accounts, anything of value that you have, definitely I would put it in a trust. And I have a trust lawyer available as well who can help with this. Also, if you're specifically looking for someone who specializes in Islamic estate planning and drawing up Islamic wills and trusts, I have someone for that as well. So I could also connect you with them if that's something you're interested in. You also want to create an estate plan. So outside of your home, if you have things like I mentioned, like bank accounts, savings accounts, 401ks, what do you want to happen with all of that? So, people have spent decades, building these assets up, what do you want to happen with these and making it easy if you have children or other people you want to pass it on to, making sure all of that is squared away now is very important. And then you also want to consider property taxes when you're moving. So, what's very common I see is maybe someone bought their home 10 plus years ago. The property tax that you're paying on that home was from when you bought it. But if you sell that home and you buy another home, it's going to be taxed on the current value of the home. So, there are some ways that you can transfer the tax rate to your next home. So those are things that you also want to make sure to consider so you're not hit with like a large tax bill all of a sudden, if you do choose to move. Um, Okay, someone asked, does the property tax increase with ADUs? That is a good question. It's definitely possible. I can't speak for every scenario, but basically your property taxes will go up if you do improvements to your home. And if it's permitted, then that means obviously the city is knowing that you're adding on ADUs, adding on something to your home. But again, I would have to check on the specifics of that city that you're thinking about. But it is definitely possible. So that's a good question. And then my phone number, yes, let me put my number in the chat right now. So that's my number, and I'll also put my email. So if you have any questions on any of what I talked about, or like I mentioned, if you want any specific resources, if it's, doing a home inspection, doing an upgrade to your home, maybe you want to adapt your home, I have people that can do all of that as well for you. Um, and yes, that was the last slide. Here's again my contact info if you need that. Um, and yes, Rubina, I believe your hand's raised.
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Hmm.
One is when you're talking with elders with estate planning and that, do you factor in the planned giving component? Tell them that how they can, donate appreciated property, etc., and still continue to live in it, etc., like that? Because that's one thing that Olive Foundation is interested in talking to our seniors and our community about
Hmm.
planned giving. That's one question. And the second question is that we do see the need for more handyman support as we are aging, as more as we age in place. And we've designed and worked out the policies and procedures for the Olive Handyman project, but haven't implemented it for a couple of reasons, and one of that is knowing resources. And you identified so many resources that you have, and if you have the bandwidth to kind of guide Olive through implementing a project like that, because you already have so many resources that you're
Hmm.
using, and the whole idea of that's a part of our aging in place support services projects. So do there are questions and a request.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so with regards to the first question, yes, the estate and trust planning attorneys, what they do is they'll sit down and talk about your whole, life kind of picture with you. So they will also talk about any planned giving, where do you want your money to go to, and even like scenarios, right? Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if your children are minors? Then what would you want to happen to the money until they turn 18? They talk about all of those things because and then also the other thing is you want to keep this updated. So if you have a trust that you built maybe 5+ years ago, things might have changed since then. So it's also important to go back and update it periodically so that it's up to date and working for your current situation and life needs. And then for the handyman, yes, yeah, I think we can like sit down and kind of talk about maybe like what are common needs that people have, and then also like what areas do you need people in? But one of the main parts, or being a realtor, we definitely have access to a lot of handyman. And what's nice is I can go and talk to other realtors in other areas. And usually people always have multiple handymen that they would, recommend and are vetted and all that as well. And we can also talk about if there's like language needs or things like that.
So one of the needs that we see is this this committee or group among us who does kind of negotiating of fees and that, so that our seniors are not taken advantage of when it comes to you don't know the size of the repair or the cost of the repair. So there
Mhm.
is this a a formal help to the people as they age, because that ability to decipher and to interview different contractors. So if there's a contractor who's pre-qualified or olive approved or something like that,
Yeah.
then they have that extra level of comfort that they're going to give them reasonable pricing and do the job.
Yes. Yeah. And what we can do is set like general guidelines or examples. Like if this is the need, this is what, typically is like the going rate, so that can kind of give a good ballpark figure, like you said, so people are getting charged fairly.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thank you so much, Anam. This is a good time for people to speak up and ask questions. And I think alluding to what Rubina was sharing was, having vetted and, experienced contractors who are not overcharging, undercharging, because you never know, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's so different with their pricing and quotes. So some are taking advantage of seniors, and that trust issue is a big thing. So I think, yeah, if there are contractors that are recommended or you've worked with them multiple times and, given it's a nonprofit working with seniors, it would be nice if we can create a database or a registry or whatever saying that, if it's coming through Olive, obviously the senior, is somebody who's very genuinely needing help. And
Mhm.
same with the contractor being genuine with the pricing, and that's fair and workable for both parties, so that they both may benefit. Any questions? Let's see. Nothing in the chat, but if anyone would like to speak up, are you able to stop sharing your screen, Anna?
Yes, let me do that.
So we could see more of you. Thank you very much, Anum Khan. Excellent discussion. That's what they said.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, this is good time. We have her for a few more minutes, so unmute yourselves. Many of you are muted, so if you're speaking, we cannot hear you. Brother Muhammad, can you please unmute yourself? Hang on, Brother Muhammad Sheikh. Hang on. Can you hear me?
I think he may be talking by himself for him personal reason.
Oh, okay.
This is really, Anam, this is really a topic very close to most of our seniors' hearts.
Hmm.
So it's very timely to have this conversation, and there are, you know, um, I know my husband and I, we've been thinking of our options, and
Hmm.
uh, and actually one of the options I explored, or I'm in the process of exploring, is possibly um, turning my house into a, RCFE, and then having staff there taking care of others, as well as having availability of people near us as we get older. I have a one-story house that you know that could be, and I mentioned that topic to some of other friends too. It's like renting a room, but renting a room where people could age in place with you. So you could be a few people aging in place and going through and getting more help and support as you as you grow. As you grow, I guess that is growth, right?
Yeah, definitely.
As you grow, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think just having that like community around is like so important. So, yeah, I love that you're like thinking ahead about that. And yeah, I think the earlier people plan, the better usually. It's, just getting those things kind of taken care of
Yeah.
before, things, yeah, things can happen and stuff.
Either we plan or we'll be forced to do it.
Right, right.
Because that time's gonna come. That time's gonna come, and it's there. It's not something that we can avoid. But and it's something worth talking about. It's not a taboo topic. You know,
Hmm.
it's not. And I think as seniors, we depends too much on our children, but I think we also need we have our own responsibility to plan for our retirement as well, proactively, share our wishes. My husband and I, we're definitely talking about it, and
Yeah.
so are our friends. Yeah. And so we are also having that conversation in Olive very frankly as well.
Yeah, I think it's great that it's like you said, there shouldn't be like taboo around it. And also like sometimes, people's children aren't around. Maybe they move for work or, other circumstances. So, what can we do to help people stay in their homes? And then also someone mentioned about the Laguna Woods community. So that I just put the website in the chat. Um, So if you go on there, this is one of the communities in Laguna Woods. And then there are also other 55 and better communities in other parts of LA and Orange County and Southern California. So if you're also interested in those, you can always reach out to me and I can connect you to what might work based off of what area you're looking in.
I think what what I'm seeing as Olive representative and what I'm seeing as a senior is that we're definitely looking at our options. And some of them may be to buy a small apartment building or a fourplex or something, then everybody is near each other.
Mhm.
So, finding creative ways of being together so you could be each other's support. Uh, that doesn't mean that you're taking away from your children's desire or ability to support you, but when they're at work and doing other things, I'm sure Zainab would be happy that if her mom and dad or mother-in-law and aunties are next to friends where they can interact with each other, um, like closer neighbors than we have neighbors right now.
Well, one of the main reasons I wanted Anam to bring this topic, number one, she's a great speaker. I follow her on social
Yeah.
media. She's definitely
Thank
an
you.
educator. And it's always very, I was telling her, most of us have a realtor that we've used for like beyond retirement age at this point, because we've just used them as a family after family, generation after generation. So it's nice to have someone young, doing this work for us and hopefully for years to come. I'm sorry if you guys can mute yourself, whoever has some background noise. But Anam, I've seen a lot of times, number one, this Laguna village. I mean, I'm praying that at some point we have an olive village similar, or at our own scale, because definitely there's a need for something like that. And I hope the Olivers in this room use this time to voice their issues, the concerns, their needs, because guess what? Rubina is in the room and she is all ears to hearing people's like needs, because Olive wants to definitely be an answer to a lot of this, offer a solution to a lot of the cases and scenarios that seniors are dealing with, and working with professionals like yourself, getting some fair and trustworthy advice. And that's why I thought that this is very important. Myself, I'm headed towards that empty nester phase. And I'm like, you know what? A side income with renting out a room is not a bad idea. But sometimes, culturally, we are the trust is a thing, opening your home to a person who may be a stranger, but at the same time it's something that can be doable with a contract, with a background check, that you feel a little more like, okay, I just didn't post something on a community center board, announcement board, and be like, one room available for rent, and some random person comes and I might deal with issues and whatnot. So that was one thing I really was hoping that today accomplishes, that opening your minds to that. Also thinking ahead. I loved how you talked about retirement planning ahead of time. Many in this room, are in a situation that they're either living alone, but, those living with spouses. One spouse knows where all the documentation is, all the paperwork is, deals with all the taxes, and God forbid, that spouse passes and now the other spouse has no idea, no clue. Is my house in a trust, like sharing that and making sure that if it's in a safe, it's in a whatever, wherever the paperwork is, either using, like how you said, technology, having those things scanned and available on some database, shared with some family members, just in case, important to think about those things. And then what else? I've seen, oh, Anna, this is the question I've seen when I'm looking for homes. There are these mobile units that are senior living facilities. Have you
Mhm.
seen those a lot? They're reasonably priced, like 300,000. But there's a lot of them. Do you know anything about those?
Yeah,
They're
so with those, basically the way they work is you don't own the land underneath, so you do have to pay a separate rent for the land. So typically it's around 1,500 to 2,000 a month, roughly.
Mhm.
So some people do find that's a good option for them because, like you said, the home itself is much lower price, maybe 300 or so. And some of
Mhm.
them can be in like nice areas too. Like I've even seen some in like Laguna Beach, like very close to the ocean. And then there are ones that are 55 and better. So everyone living there has to be a minimum 55 years old. No, like depending on the community, like sometimes no minors are allowed to stay over. But yes, with those, you do have to pay rent for the space that the home is on, but it can
Okay.
still be a lot more cost effective. And sometimes people say, I'd rather move into a mobile home that I know I can pay for or pay off at least the home itself versus I'm still paying a mortgage now that I may never be able to, pay off. And then on top of it, there's less maintenance costs with those manufactured homes as well, typically. So, I've definitely seen those communities around also.
Do,
Yeah, yeah, I've seen
do
them
you,
whenever I'm Google searching.
Yeah,
They're the most reasonably priced homes. And I don't know if I have to be a senior to live in them, like because they're that's how they're advertised as a senior living home. So do I need to be 55 to live in something like that? I don't know.
yeah. For those, yes, but there are other like manufactured homes like that that are not 55 and better.
Mm,
So some are that are focused on like the specific age, and then some are just general, anyone can live there. But just yeah, you just have to keep in mind you do have to pay rent on top of the purchase of the home, and then this is getting a little bit in the weeds, but there's also only specific lenders that will lend on those homes if you're looking to get a mortgage. I do have some of those contacts too, if that's something that anyone's interested in.
okay. And then
I
if I
I have
wanted
a
to
I have
risk,
a personal comment.
oh,
Um,
okay.
I'm so proud of you, Anam.
Oh,
Your
thank you.
presentation was really excellent. I have watched you grow into a wonderful young woman. Yesterday you were playing with doll houses. Now you're doing real homes. So proud to be in that. Thank you.
Of
Oh, thank you
course.
so much.
Anam, how do we determine the price to rent? Or it's kind of up to me as a homeowner if I'm renting out a room, like whether I choose to rent it out for 800 or 1,000, or do I look into the like, am I comparing it to some kind of market pricing or something?
Yeah, so you'll typically want to look at the market pricing. So, if someone comes to me and asks like how much can I rent this out for, I'll go and look for what similar homes are renting for and give them a range.
Mhm.
Of course, as like a owner, you can charge whatever you want, but what I've seen is if the asking price is, above what the average market rent is, typically those properties won't get rented out as quickly, or you just won't have as many applicants to choose from. So going back to, screening, like vetting people, you want to have a variety of people to choose from. But the best way to price it is basically looking at what other similar homes have been rented out for or what they're being rented for, like on sites like Zillow and
Oh, yeah.
Redfin. And then the main things you want to look for is like how many beds and baths, condition of the property. Are there like added amenities? Are there access to like an HOA community or things like that? And then of course the location of the home as well. So Rubina was asking, do you deal with commercial real estate? I do not. I do have other agents who specialize in commercial that I can refer you to. With commercial, those are basically like if someone's looking for like a business space to rent out or run any sort of like business operation from. With those, the contracts are different than residential. So you have to look at things like utilities, insurance, business licenses and all of that. So it is a separate field. But I am keeping an eye out if I do come across any properties for Olive. So I will let you know.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Again, Oliver's, many of you have been quiet. We haven't heard from you. You're welcome
yeah,
to unmute yourself and love to hear from you. Go
I
ahead.
put a message in the chat that there is a nonprofit in Fullerton, near Cal State Fullerton, that matches students with seniors.
Do you know the name of the nonprofit?
I I did, and I will search it again. But that's something like a matchmaking service, handyman, that we could also take a look at as well. Shamim, we knew the name of that nonprofit at one time, but I will research it. A matchmaking, so it's not your full renters, it could be student rentals, student renters. I'll look for it and find it.
Sounds good. If there are no more questions, we will go ahead and end today's meeting. And again, round of applause. I know you can't hear us, but good job, Anam. Thank you
Thank you so
for
much.
arranging and talking about these important topics. I hope everybody is at least thinking and planning ahead. And again, bring these questions. And while Olive might not have all the answers immediately, we would love to gather the solutions so that we can all work towards our healthy aging in place plans, because 90% of seniors want to age in place. And we know that it could be done with a community of volunteers and a reliable business contractors and making it happen. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Hi, thank you so much for
Thank
inviting me.
you.
It was
Thank you
great.
very much.
And
Olive Community Services is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Southern California that provides culturally appropriate services to seniors, their family, and the community. Through its physical and virtual interactive programs, Olive engages participants in a variety of ways that promotes health and well-being. To learn more about Olive Community Services, to get involved, or to make a donation, please visit www.olivecs.org or email info@olivecs.org. Be a change maker, and together, let's live, learn, and thrive.